Ntsika Ntsokolo from Sasfin Wealth joins us now for a full look into the day that was in markets. Ntsika, thanks so much for your time this evening. Now let's start off with your general assessment of what's playing out in markets. We're in the last stretch, the last month of the year. Do you expect to see a Christmas rally?
Good evening, darling, and thank you so much for having me on. I certainly do. I think certainly within the retail sector, I think everyone's anticipating somewhat of a bounce. We've seen of our big retail stocks like Mr. Price and the like down over 50% for the year. So I think a big look is looking to our retailers and to see whether or not we get this December kick that we're expecting. I think the numbers we're going to see come out of Black Friday and some of these specials should also kind of represent themselves in the bottom lines. But certainly more positive for retail going into the end of the year, and perhaps slightly more pessimistic when I think about the resources sectors.
And I was about to say that it would be interesting to get further insight into what played out last week and over the weekend when it comes to those Black Friday sales, and of course moving over into the festive season where consumers feel a bit more generous when it comes to spending. Now let's take a look at what's playing out in terms of company news here at home. A few updates, a few results coming out, starting off with Alex Forbes. HIPS coming in stronger, the firm also implementing that new operating model, also seeing steady new business flows, which is not something we see on a regular basis, especially in economy with low growth. What have you made of those numbers?
No, certainly does. I think the big thing for us was probably the increase on continuing operations, which was up about 28%, or profits from continuing operations up 28% to around 745 million rand. I think that really speaks to the performance of the wider JSE. I think we've seen the all share up in the 30s and maybe 40% if you look at it in dollar terms. So I think perhaps even though it grew quite significantly, I think the market perhaps was looking for a slightly bit more. I can see now on the tickets down about 5.5%.
Yeah.
And so although I think we saw strong performance with regard to like that retirement funded investment service providers, as they seem to continue to remain resilient, I think as investors, we're trying to look through the cycle, and there are a lot of questions to be asked about 2026. Mainly, one, can this, this precious metals rally continue to hold up? What happens with the general consumer, and does he have more money to put into retirement savings, or is it more of a drawdown period? And so I think, really the PMI numbers and looking out to the broader economy probably weigh more heavily on the results than the actual results themselves.
And that brings me to my next question. I wanted to ask you about Standard Bank, but actually let's get into those PMI figures, right? Standard Bank in particular mentioned that they're quite confident when it comes to sentiment around SA. But then you wonder when sentiment starts filtering through to real economic production, right? We look at some of the numbers out, PMI in particular, very downbeat, coming in still below that 50-point mark that separates, gains from losses. And we are seeing that the manufacturing sector is still downbeat at what? 5-year lows.
Yeah, no, certainly it's been a very, very tough PMI print, and I think the S&P coming out to the 48.8, which is obviously below the 50.2 that we saw in September. And again, the reasons are kind of nascent, the ones that we know as South Africans. We see weakening demand, falling new orders, and a decrease in output. Export sales have also shrank quite significantly, and perhaps the only green light would be the fact that we had stronger input cost inflation, and due to the fact that our South African rand, improved so significantly against the dollar through the period. But I think the truth is that the true softness, the softness in our numbers is starting to reveal itself in these PMI numbers. And quite frankly, I think manufacturing in South Africa really, really needs a kick in the bottom, because we don't know how to fix it at this point in time. And, to your point about the Standard Bank numbers, I mean, although they kept guidance, or kept their guidance for the rest of the year, I think the truth is the key indicators, interest income and credit losses, are going to be where we're looking as investors this year, because although they're selling us a rosy story for the equities, the group also did reduce its GDP growth forecast for South Africa to under 1% for 2025. So I think a story of a tale of two towns, but it'll be very interesting to see what the hard numbers come out of them will be.
Yeah, I mean, sentiment upbeat, but when you look at the regular South African, they're still struggling, right? Yeah. When you look at real economic data, still downbeat. But let's move over to what's playing out in the mining sector, taking a look at Teresa's numbers. Lower production, lower revenue. Interestingly, though, It's upbeat about the chrome market, a market that we've been seeing that's been really, really under pressure. Glencore, Merafe have, restructured on that side, calling for, or rather saying that they'll be cutting jobs. What do you make of that and the optimism that they have in terms of the chrome market in particular?
I think within Chrome, it's probably a single winner loser, or one winner wins all, or wins economies of scale in this market. So when you have a reduction of production from companies as grand as strong as Glencore, Merafe, you actually do worry about where the supply is going to come from and where the quality supply is going to come from. And we're looking at Theresa. I think another massive part of why they're up today is probably around that debt window, the debt facility that they got out the US. I think they received $130 million, and it was group led by Absa and Standard Bank to kind of build it up, and about $80 million will be for a 1-year loan, and about 900 million rand in a revolving credit facility. So I think that probably is the biggest news of the day when it comes to their results, thinking about how it alleviates pressure on that balance sheet and allows them to really focus on their core business going forward.
All right, news of the day aside, where are you seeing value at the moment? What's your stock pick?
Naspers, a process in Naspers. I think
that's a safe bet, Ntsika.
No, that's the share price. I think with Fabrizio de Blasio now, net CEO, he's finally started to unlock and close up that discount we've seen in the group for however long.
Yeah.
And as I think we're at a point now, we're probably at parity with that discount being closed, but with the share down about 11% on the month, I probably think it's not a bad time to pick some up if you underweight the stock.
All right, let's leave it there. Thanks so much for your time and taking us through the day's markets action. Now, that was Ntsika Ntsokolo from Sasfin Wealth.